The forward pass is arguably one of the most exciting plays in pro football. In the 2012 NFL season, a record 11 quarterbacks threw for 4,000 or more yards, according to the Pro Football Hall of Fame website. But the passing game hasn't always been this popular. It took time to develop, and it evolved very slowly into what we see today. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about. I'm going to give you a brief history of the forward pass, two players in particular who helped to popularize the forward pass, and then I'm going to talk to you about two offensive strategies that help to maximize the benefits of the passing game later on in its development. So how did it all start? Well, in December of 1905, university and college leadership convened from around the country to determine the fate of football and whether or not it was going to stay around due to the safety concerns. One of the major changes that we saw from that meeting is the introduction of the legal forward pass. But the going was slow at first. A lot of teams didn't really want to use it because they were so deeply entrenched in their running philosophy, and also because there were a lot of penalties for an incomplete pass. And it wasn't until nearly a year later, in September 5th, 1906, in a game between St. Louis University and Carroll College, which the first pass was actually used. Bradbury Robinson connected 20 yards downfield to Jack Snyder in what is officially known as the first legal forward pass in football history. And thus began the storied saga of this exciting play. But with this new technique, he needed a new quarterback. And that takes me to Sammy Baugh. In the 30s and 40s, Baugh was a pioneer at his position, widely considered one of the first modern passers in NFL history. Over the course of his Hall of Fame career, according to his biography on the Hall of Fame website, he amassed 6 passing titles, over 21,000 yards through the air, and over 180 touchdown passes. And while that doesn't seem very impressive by today's standards, they were well above average for his time, earning him the nickname Slingin' Sammy. And then and that leads me to Johnny Unitas, who basically picked up right where Sammy Baugh left off. Johnny Unitas came into the league very quietly. He was actually dropped by the first team that drafted him because he wasn't considered smart enough to lead a team. Well, he definitely proved them wrong. The Baltimore Colts gave him a shot in 1956, and he responded with a Hall of Fame career highlighted by 3 NFL titles, as well as numerous passing records that stood for decades, highlighting his dominance at the position. He showed teams and coaches around the league that with the right blend of leadership, poise under pressure, and passing skill, you could elevate the passing game to a whole new level, which leads me to new offensive strategies. Players like Unitas revealed that the passing game needed to be maximized. You needed to find ways to take these great quarterbacks and give them an advantage. And that leads me to the Air Coryell offense, which really shone through from 1978 to 1983. Don Coryell was the head coach of the San Diego Chargers, and with Dan Fouts playing at quarterback, this team amassed over 24,000 yards over that 6-year span. It's still considered one of the greatest feats in NFL history. One of the side effects of this pass-first vertical offense was that it redefined how the tight end position was played. Kellen Winslow Sr. had a very gifted physical skill set. It was unusual for tight ends of his time to have his particular athleticism. And we see his legacy carrying on today in such tight ends as Vernon Davis and Antonio Gates. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the West Coast offense. This offense relies very heavily on high percentage throws, impeccable timing, discipline, and a very methodical approach based on gaining short amounts of yardage at a time. Bill Walsh mastered this philosophy, and 2 players who thrived under this system were Joe Montana and Steve Young, who both played for the San Francisco 49ers and had Hall of Fame careers as well as a couple of Super Bowl titles. According to an article on the USA Today titled "West Coast Offense Past Its Time," there is a growing suggestion that the West Coast offense may finally be dying down and being replaced by a more explosive, deeper passing game similar to the Air Coryell that I mentioned before. However, because of some of the philosophies that just never really go out of date that were associated with the West Coast offense, you will always see elements of that offense in pass-oriented teams. So in summary, I covered a little bit of history about the forward pass. I covered 2 players who helped to popularize it, and we also went over 2 particular offensive strategies who helped to maximize the benefits of the passing game. I hope it's been fun. I hope it's been informative. And even if you didn't take anything really interesting away from this, hopefully you'll be intrigued enough to go and do some digging into your own favorite sport. And you never know what you may find.